Hi, Scorpio. This is your Aries season, eclipse season, April reading. I'm dry and my retinol is doing some wonders on me right now, so forgive the redness in my face. However, it is normal. Also, I let air into my house all day, so I'm letting it warm up again. I will be drinking multiple things as we get into your reading today. All information to work with me one-on-one is below, as well as the extended version to this reading, which will be in the first link below. Give it about 24 to 40 hours-ish to get access to it, to gain access to it. That's like really how we wanna say it. We're just gonna like start slow. Like, how are you guys doing? Maybe you want to grab something comfortable. I'm getting more into my meditation bag again. So slowing things down where it's necessary, letting us feel into the space of Aries season. My podcast link is below, and a new one will be coming up that will be also a meditation as well, if you want to check that out. It'll be up probably by the weekend before the eclipse. So the 7th, around that time, take a look. I'm going to put it up here. I'll put it on Patreon and on the podcast as well. But definitely check the Spotify link first. I'm just saying that so I hold myself to it. I've been practicing and studying meditation, which I feel like I have my whole childhood because of the kind of child I was and the type of brain I've had. Sorry about the smoke. But it's Mars. Venus and Mars, so the smoke is coming. Let's prepare. Relaxing into our place. But I've been studying like my own way. I've taken like courses and stuff, but I feel like the best exploration is through yourself and through intuition. So like then when like you're ready to study with someone, if you ever want to, or you take like a retreat or you do something more intensive, definitely, connect with yourself intuitively. If you're doing it just for you, that's the most important thing to do. So you want to find places that are very selfless, right? Might be a little more homely, I might say, but check it out if you're ever curious. It's definitely something that has even saved my life in ways. Not to get too deep with you really quickly. The first card out is the 4 of Wands. Foundation. You may be creating a foundation in some way of your life right now, which is kind of how we started this video. We are laying out the foundation for this reading that, I took a break in between the last few signs because, oh wow, I didn't even see this card at first. Eclipse season at first came in really open, but now we see the focus. We're starting to feel maybe the pain points. Maybe you're starting to feel the pain points. Maybe you're starting to see where things are not balanced in your life, where things are maybe under too much control. Perhaps maybe you feel like if you're perhaps you're holding on to something that feels like a discipline, but it's really a control, because you're almost scared of what happens if you let go, Scorpio. However, that's the other side. Justice is not just holding scales, it's holding a sword. Everyone wants to relate Libra only to the scales, as if we are constantly in this back and forth, but every day, every month, every moment, we're making our own small decisions. So this is also the other end of the spectrum. I'm sorry, this feels a little personal. I'm not a Libra, but I have a Scorpio in my life. We're gonna get personal. I'm gonna address the situation because I don't want to just be biased. I want to connect with you. Especially if you're building a home or you started to build a foundation with someone in your life, you're now going to see where it is that you can't hide from this person anymore, including yourself. You really can't hide from yourself. You can't hide from, so 4 of Wands to 4 of Pentacles, you want something, but you're the one stopping yourself from getting there. And this eclipse season is in your face. At first, it was like a lot of words and a lot of chaos and a lot of movement. All of a sudden, we drop into Aries season, and it's like, no, like, you need to make a boundary, a discipline around how you view this. Because 4 to 5 is saying, like, maybe you're doing too much. Too much in one area. This is that bad. Okay, now we're bringing back the scales. Too much in one area, not enough in another area. So that energy that you're focusing so much on foundation in terms of money, your values, now needs to be put into action of some sort. And it was around the eclipse recently, just a week ago, because now we're on April 1st. So as I do this reading, Mercury has entered retrograde in Aries. And then we'll finish the eclipses next week. So in between this time, it's really important that you not as so much try to gain control over this area. It's more like take your power back where you can. If you can't necessarily pay off all of your debt, right? Or you can't necessarily make big changes, whether it's like when you're fighting, right? Notice where you're fighting with yourself first. Notice why you're fighting with this person, right? Is there too much going on for you? Are you trying to put yourself in too many places? Are you not? Where are you actually focusing? I know, so many questions. But these are the questions you're going to be asked until the end of the season. These are questions that you have 2 Venusian signs against a Mars sign here. You're the Mars sign if you haven't noticed. That there has to be some unattachment. There has to be some luxury. There has to be some indulgence. But where you're indulging right now is in a place that's just going to exploit the problem. Instead of seeing what's necessary, these 2 cards are taking steps back. They're holding their ground. They want to address the situation. If this is you leveling things out, seeing things for what they are, you may find yourself in a rock and a hard place this month. Is what you hold so closely, what it is that you have this control over. Maybe it's your esteem, maybe it's what you think you look like. Yet, all you're doing is resisting something beautiful on the other side. Why, Scorpio? Why must you resist? The interesting thing is right in the middle of this reading is the King of Swords. So you are disciplined. You are in a mindset. You're in a mode. But given which mode you decide to take, you can go certainly one way or the other. So it's time to check in with your body a little bit more if you haven't. And that is always going to be my advice to you as a highly intuitive person who claims myself to be, knows that I am. Your body is your biggest asset. It's not only where your instincts lie, it's you. If you train yourself to check in, Scorpio, if you already don't, if you notice that you already do because you're very psychically attuned, if you start doing that on the regular, you can't find yourself caught in a position that you can't get yourself out of, if it's dangerous or unfair, or talk yourself out of in a way that is productive and is going to help you in the long run. But it's so important that there's some things that you're so attached to right now, but it's causing friction in your life, especially if it's you wanting to expand your home, you wanting to have a child, right? You wanting to understand how you move throughout this life. There is a key component to moving forward at this time. From 5 to 5, it's how you choose to handle yourself in situations. What happens when you find yourself in the middle of things? How is it that you want to act? Truthfully. If it's petty, then act petty. If it's vindictive, if it's smart, it's strategic. Even in your even if it's a relationship dynamic or a work dynamic, you may find yourself in, especially for Scorpio risings, Libra in the 12th house, there's this subconscious work going on. There's things coming up and that have been for the past 6 months that you have had to deal with yourself, and how they literally relate in your relationships. And especially your work-life balance. That's also something else that's coming up. Lots of cards. The suggested way to handle this situation is take a look at what you got and learn. You may not physically be where you once were, but you may be acting as if you were still there. So look around and notice where you are and what you have, and start acting from that place. Heck, start even acting from where you wish you could be. I just said heck. Fuck. Look, you can do that. For those of you who have come to learn that part of yourself and are highly intuitive as it is, this is the perfect time to commit even deeper to your emotional well-being. Why? Why, Scorpio? Because this commitment and this deep dive into yourself and your internal world will allow you to see what you've been holding back, the power that you've been holding back from yourself. And that ability to sometimes get mad at yourself for these things or turn on yourself. Creating challenges you've never had any intention of doing, but you know you have all of the energy to have the fight, to resist the change that is going to continuously persist, because it's the change of evolution. In case you've ever met a Libra or an Aries, you have met the most persistent people in your life. The initiator cardinal signs with no bounds, fire and air, they're going to go. They're going to stop. They're going to try to get you to be on board with what they're doing, and then they're going to go. Regardless, they're going to go. They're going to do what they have to do. So committing to yourself means committing to shifting this cycle of how you communicate, with how you share your talents, with how you work, perhaps in your day-to-day. And how committing to that pattern is so amazing, but it also shows you where in your life you've been holding yourself back. Now, you can't fight the change that is coming, which is like it's like the Pac-Man card, right? I saw that today. That's interesting. What happens when letting go of certain responsibilities actually brings you joy? And choosing others actually brings you joy and light and realizations in these moments of change that you can't resist, even though you do, because it exhausts you, so that you can get the realization that you need And the realization is that you don't need to exhaust yourself, Scorpio, to get what you need. This is also a pattern perhaps from a long cycle in your life, especially for those Scorpio sun signs. This is something you realize on us from small to a big scale. You've been asked over and over and over again to continuously make the decision. Are you going to go through the rebirth process, or are you going to resist it until it goes through you? Either way, I do believe you eventually surrender, because you realize that the weight of that is far, this is my little baby. You'd rather be more responsible for something different, for maybe not something that's dying, but something that you actually enjoy. Something you can do that is being more of yourself, and or maybe trying something new where you can gain confidence. It's not something you go into super confident. Maybe you start there doing something you're really good at to feel good, but then you go and try something that you gain confidence at. At first it's a risk, and then all of a sudden you find yourself wanting to do it more, wanting to be better at it, finding yourself fully fledged into maybe even a purpose, a life path. And maybe you start to do something new, even some kind of school or training program that allows you to bring together or harness both the left and right brain to an extent, of course. Maybe it's a particular practice with the body, or maybe you need to use your entire body to progress. Could be a sport, could be martial art, could be yoga, could be whatever. Either way, this is helping you deepen the understanding of who you are and where you're at in your life now, which, circling back, is a solid foundation. We have the 4 at the end here. We have these 3 cards too. But I want to acknowledge the 4 and the 4. That you're willing to gain knowledge from this action now, where, unfortunately, Scorpio, the eclipse season is not a time, and these road signs in the darks are saying, like, it's really not a time for you to know everything right now. She's never really sit in the videos. You're special. You are special, Scorpio, and that's what we're trying to tell you, is that you also have to feel it too. This change is something that you fear because you don't see what's coming next, perhaps. It doesn't mean you don't keep going. It means that you use those spidey senses, those scorpion senses, that water sign sense, that depth, to feel through it. What happens when you say this fear is just within me? And what if for this moment I decide that I'm not going to let it hold me back? Just this moment. What happens? It can feel like you're out of control, perhaps. Now take a moment and realize that you have the ether around you. This everything, that which is God. All this intimate space that you can create from. This commitment to yourself is willing to see these things. And once you get to the end, it's almost like, and we'll get more of this into the second part because there's a lot of juice here, is like, because then we have the 6 to 6 to wrap it up. So many synchronicities also, because we got 3 4s out actually. 2 2s next to each other, 2 5s came out right next to each other, 3 2s. It's like fucking rummy. But the 6 is to round it out here, which is, you know, in the Roman numerals, is the opposite of the 4. Is that you're spiraling out now. You might feel like you're spiraling at points during this season, from the Libra to the end, I would say the end of the week of the eclipse on the 8th, that you may just need to give yourself a moment with your kitty. You just may need to give yourself a moment to like reflect and recommit to what makes you you, right? You may have found yourself kind of in a space where You may not have been able to feel quite like yourself, but when you're changing, you don't feel quite like yourself. You feel like someone else. And you can even either start feeling into that part of you more or resist it, of course. But either way, during these growth points, which is eclipse season, it will push you. And it's not pushing you for the worst or bringing things up for the worst. It's bringing up things in everyone's life that they've been either avoiding or working towards being exposed to. Now, if we saw it like that, you're working towards something within, you're facing certain triggers, you're going through easeful times as well, but all coming back, you're feeling the undertow of this big eclipse because it's a total eclipse. We're not going to have another one for 20 years, just like Pluto. Pluto transit went in because Pluto does rule your sign too, so I have to throw it in there, right? It's not easy because you're really changing a lot. So you may feel uncomfortable. For some of you, it's the uncomfort of feeling seen more, right? For seeing yourself as you are, maybe so transparent that you know who asked for this type shit. But it's important to know that you're loved. It's important to recommit to yourself and reflect. How do I show up in this differently? Well, I learn. I learn from my past. I learn from whatever I have already left behind or am doing in this moment. Whether it's a mindset, a perception, a literal place. If you are leaving a job and entering a new one, you want to start on a new cycle. You don't want to bring old patterns and habits with you along the way. And that's not really what I think you're looking for anyway. Either way, taking your power back is perhaps confidently even looking at any mother figure, you know, what you deem a mother, your definition of a mother, even just being as simple as that, and taking a look at that and seeing the positive, the negatives, the responsibility that comes with that, right? The responsibilities you have to yourself. There could also be someone who approaches you in this time and you feel very confident about the direction you're going, regardless of what anyone says, which is always important, but it's extremely important for you to trust yourself completely at this time, as best as you can, but like as close as you can to it, because entering a time of darkness, you will have to trust that you will come out the other end, and you will. You go through it, but it's with the trust and the understanding of the patterns in your life, in our lives, and that it only makes you more of who you're supposed to be, if that's also what you're desiring, Scorpio. And if you're here, I'm hoping that is what you're desiring, and I have faith that that's what we're talking about here, right? Yeah, right. This is Cece. All information to work with me is below. I love you so much, and we'll see you next month.